Hey everybody, this is Tom from VermiBag. Even with everything going on with the COVID-19 and stuff, I still want to go ahead and put a couple videos up here and there just to try and keep things as much as normal as possible. Life still goes on, but so I want to do an update on the two VermiBag little mammoths that I have running, and also the old trash bag, and another one I'm kind of treating like a trash bag too. Just take a quick peek into those. The main thing is to look at these little mammoths and see how they're doing. Because again, I'm still trying to figure out, I haven't gotten the real light Cordura one up and running yet. But I do have the one on the right, the green one is a Cordura material, so it breathes a fair amount. And the one on the left is actually the Oxford on the bottom, but it actually has a Cordura top, so it breathes through the top. Where the Cordura one on the right breathes through the body, but the top is actually the Oxford. So take a peek, just see what the difference is on them, and see what they look like right now. We'll take a look at the Cordura one first. So I've been digging around in this just a little bit, just trying to loosen up the soil and stuff. There's quite a bit of food still left in the system, but I have noticed that as I'm digging along the sides here, this material on the sides, it's definitely a little bit drier than I would like it. There's still moisture in there. So, this Cordura material is definitely breathing an awful lot. If I pull up here, this would be like a perfect consistency for sifting, but I don't really think it's a perfect consistency to, have the worms, accelerating and doing a really good job breeding and stuff. That's why I think they're tending to be a little bit more towards the center. If I can dig down in here, where it's a little bit more moisture. So I'm going to have to water down this bag just a little bit on the sides, I think. I'm still not going to give it any additional food right now because there's so much carbon sources in this system. I mean, the worms look really good, but again, it's just a little drier on the side. I mean, it's noticeably drier on the sides than it is in just a little bit. So I can definitely tell that, the large surface area of this thing, of the bag itself, is letting a lot of air come in and tending to dry out a little around the outer edge. So I'm going to have to adjust my feedings and stuff in here and probably water around the perimeter each time just to add a little bit of moisture. And again, if that's the the way the system has to work, that's just what you would do on a normal feeding, is water it down. And I have noticed that on the lid there is a fair amount of condensation on the lid, so the lid is trying to catch the moisture and put it back into the system. But the sides of the bag are breathing a lot, so it's probably not making up for the amount of airflow and evaporation I'm getting out of the sides. I mean, the top helps, but I'm not sure if it's actually enough. So let's take a look at the Cordura one and see what it looks like. Now this one has the breathable top, so this is a light Cordura top, so it breathes a fair amount through the lid. So you don't see any condensation at all on the lid of this. I did throw some spinach, frozen spinach on this yesterday, so you'll see that on top. But right off the bat, I notice in this particular system is it's definitely worked over better on the surface. And as I reach down along the side, it's definitely a lot moisture along the edges. I really don't notice much difference here versus the center. Maybe a slight bit of difference, but not much really. Get down a little bit further, and I mean, the worms are doing really well. There's still scraps of material here and there and here as well. So I mean, I threw that spinach on top because I had it sticking in the freezer and I needed a little space, so I took it out. But the worms look good and healthy in here for sure. Moisture-wise, I think it's definitely better than the Cordura one, I think. During the center right here, it's actually almost the other way. It's pretty doggone moist here. This stuff would stick together really well, but the worms really seem to like it. I think they really thrive in a little bit moister conditions versus drier conditions. So as long as the system doesn't hold too much moisture for when you do the harvest, it isn't too moist down there, but I think it's going to be all right actually. But this system is actually doing really well, and I'm kind of surprised because I actually thought I would prefer the Cordura one, in all honesty. But I'm actually starting to think that maybe having this Oxford for the sides that's non-breathable, along with a breathable lid, might be the combination that's, best for most people. And that's what I'm trying to do, is get a system that is, overall good for most people in most areas. You may have to adjust it in your area, but, I can't make a system for every climate, really. I just can't make that many different varieties. But so far I'm actually pretty happy with this one. So again, I'm kind of surprised. I'm starting to tend towards this Oxford material versus the Cordura material. And I have a couple people out there that have a couple of these bags with the Oxford, so I'll be curious on getting feedback from them on how they're doing. So let's take a look at these other two bags that I run like trash bags and see how they're doing. Take a look at this first Max. And again, I just throw just about anything I want in here. I'm really not picky at all with these particular systems. I threw, again, some extra of that spinach, frozen spinach I had. But I throw lots of just big chunks of cardboard in here normally. And the worms are really thriving in here. There's no doubt about that. I mean, egg cartons. I don't know what this was here. I have no idea. It looks like it was some type of a melon or something. I don't know what it was. Whatever it was, the worms really liked it. You can see. But even on the sides. Now I did spray down the sides of this bag. When I fed it the other day, I took the sprayer and sprayed all along the edge and really wetted it down, because even on this, these big, the Maxes and stuff, there's still a little breathability on the sides. If you let them sit for, weeks on end, they tend to get a little bit of dryness along the edge. So I think you need to get in a habit of, when you feed these things, to take your sprayer and just spray right along the edge. Just let that water run down along the edge and keep the edges of these systems moist. Because even here, again, right there, if I dig down along this outer edge, this is a little dry. I mean, there's still moisture in this, but you don't see any worms in this outer edge because it's just a little bit too dry for them to, really thrive in that area. They're all congregated here in the center. We had all this food, and there's definitely a lot of worms in this area. Let's take a look at the other one here and see what it looks like. So this is the original trash bag that I started, even though I'm running them both kind of the same way. I do have that gunny sack on the top of it, and I tend to wet it down because it'll hold moisture for a while. That helps me keep the moisture levels a little bit better in these systems. And you can see quite a few worms hanging out here on the surface, right underneath this. Again, they're doing very well here too. I mean, they're definitely congregating in this center section, it looks like. The moisture in the center section is really good. Check the outer edges on this too, because I watered this one down too. I do see a lot of worms over in this area right here, because I think there's some food or something right here, it looks like. Leftover something. Actually, the edge of this one isn't too bad. It's a little bit drier along the edge, not too bad, but I did water it down. But as you can tell here, there's a lot of, there's a fair amount of worms right along the edge. So if you have worms in these sections, see, that was a little bit drier. And notice there aren't any worms right there. But like right here, when I pull this up, there's still a lot of worms in this area. And it's definitely moisture here. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and give this a little bit more food and then go ahead and do the same thing. I'm gonna spray it all the way around the edges, and I'm gonna wet down this gunny sack really good again just to hold some moisture in there. But yeah, I mean, the worms are doing really well. The system looks really good. The material is absolutely one. These really need to be harvested. I know the whole bottom of this bag, I don't know how much is in here. There's got to be at least 20 gallons at least of compost in here ready to harvest, but I just haven't had the time to harvest it. And back here it's a little dry too, right on the edge. Notice again, you don't see any worms right on the outer edge. If I go in just a tiny little bit and I pull it up, I have the worms. So it's kind of your indication that it's a little bit too dry. So I'll give it a good spray down with the big sprayer. So, you know, I'll probably be adding a quarter of a gallon or something, a fair amount. With that big sprayer, you can put out quite a bit of water. So I think they both need a little bit of water, and I'll give them both a little feeding. One thing too I wanted to let everybody know is that I've actually shut down the VermiBag shop. I'm not allowing any more orders right now because they've really restricted the flights and stuff that are coming out of here and stuff. So I don't want people ordering something and then it, you know, being stuck somewhere between here and there, and you know, taking possibly months to arrive. So until the whole situation kind of changes and stabilizes a little bit, I'm going to continue to make bags, but I'm not going to be shipping any bags out. So hopefully, you know, in 3 weeks, 4 weeks or whatever, I'll be able to start accepting orders. But for right now, I'm not. So that's it. That's our update for this week on the two Maxes and the two little Mammoths. So hopefully next week I'll try and do another video, a little update on it, and see how they're doing. Until then, everybody be safe. And this is Tom from VermiBag. Ciao.